Everyone, we're pleased to welcome Elutia Inc. back to the conference. It's a NASDAQ listed company trading under the symbol ELUT. Elutia develops and commercializes drug-eluting biomatrix products to improve compatibility between medical devices and the patients who need them. Since our last update in July, Elutia reported solid Q2 24 financial results, strengthened its balance sheet, and bolstered its management team. Notably, Elutia continues to make significant progress on its commercialization plans for EluPro, the world's first antibiotic-eluting bioenvelope that received FDA clearance in June. So please join me in welcoming back Elutia's president and CEO, Dr. Randy Mills. Welcome back, Randy.
Thank you so much for having us. It's great.
All right, we're happy to hear about this update. But first, remind our viewers again about Elutia's business and how you help patients.
Yeah, sure. So for those new to the story, we work at the interface of implantable medical devices, so things like pacemakers and defibrillators, and how well they get along with the patients that they're intended to serve. And so sort of at a high level, if you were to get a splinter in your finger, your body would do some certain things. It would develop a lot of inflammation around it. It would get red. It would try to push that splinter out. It would try to wall it off, and ultimately it could end up in an infection. And it does that pretty predictably because it sees that splinter as a foreign body. Well, the problem is your body doesn't really know the difference between a splinter, which it doesn't want, and a pacemaker, which it desperately needs, or a breast implant in a woman undergoing breast reconstruction surgery after oncology. And so it treats that pacemaker in exactly the same way. There's a lot of inflammation. It tries to push it out of the body. It can migrate. It can do all these things, and that causes a lot of problems. And it's kind of interesting because you have these big giant device companies that work really hard on making sure that the pacemaker can detect a lethal rhythm and address it and correct it. But they don't spend a lot of time on that compatibility and how well that device gets along with the patient. And so that's where we come in. And we found a really cool niche, finding ways of making these long-term implantable devices work well, better with the patients that they need. And then we do that through this concept of a drug-eluting biologic. And what that means sort of as a high level is we're able to create a biologic natural matrix that goes around the pacemaker in this case. And then we impregnate it with drugs. And the drugs we're using for the pacemaker are powerful antibiotics that prevent infection. And that's what we do. There's 550,000 pacemakers that go in every year, but there's 13 million long-term implantable devices that get implanted in patients in the United States, and they all face this same sort of foreign body response, and that's what we ultimately try to address.
And the EluPro just received FDA clearance. So talk a little bit about that and how it fits specifically into the current cardiac implantable device market.
Yeah, so EluPro is our product specifically for pacemakers and implantable defibrillators. As I said, there's about 550,000 of these implantable defibrillators and pacemakers each year just in the United States alone. And what a lot of people don't know is about 5 to 7% of those will actually have one of these problems where the pacemaker will migrate down the patient's chest wall and pull on the leads, or in some cases, this foreign body response will literally eject the pacemaker outside and expel the pacemaker from the body, and then a good 3 to 4% of them will go on and develop an infection. And if you're a patient that needs a pacemaker, right, that's not an elective kind of thing, right? You've gotten a pacemaker because there's some potentially lethal rhythm going on in your heart, and having that procedure fail 5 to 7% of the time because it doesn't get along well with your body is kind of unacceptable. And so that's what we've developed EluPro to fix. It encases the pacemaker. It prevents it from moving. It prevents it from being expelled from the body, and it delivers these powerful antibiotics so that these compromised patients don't face any post-operative infections, and that's a pretty cool thing to do.
Absolutely. And it holds significant value in the device implantations market. So where are you in the process as you prepare for commercialization?
Yeah, there's when you look at the pacemaker market, it's a $15 billion market. It's this massive market that is surprisingly concentrated. So in the United States, there are only 4 pacemaker companies. Medtronic is the largest, followed closely by Boston Scientific and Abbott, and then sort of as a distant fourth, a company called Biotronic. But there's only 4 total, and the interesting thing about that market is Medtronic, the market leader, they weren't working on the foreign body response, but they a few years ago acquired a company for about $200 million that had a technology that just delivered antibiotic there. So it didn't deal with the inflammation and the migration and the erosion. But they came up with this plastic kind of polymer that would sort of dissolve in the patient. And as it dissolved, it would liberate antibiotic. And sort of was like a prototype to the kind of stuff that we do, a very early version of it. And it turned out for Medtronic, that was incredibly successful. So that product, even though it's synthetic and it has all of those issues associated with it, does about $300 million a year of business. And Medtronic is the only one that has it. And they've been kind of using it to capture pacemaker business from the other pacemaker business, other players. Now, keep in mind, the pacemaker players in the pacemaker business, that's really the game here, right? That's the $15 billion market. And so if you can use this $300 million product to go capture, $15 billion of business, that's a pretty good deal. And that's what they've been doing pretty successfully up until now. Now that EluPro comes along, it's a biologic product. It is a superior product to Medtronic's product. It not only delivers the powerful antibiotics and prevents infection, but it has this regenerative technology that actually creates a natural, compatible environment in the patient. And as you can imagine, if you're one of those other 3 pacemaker companies, that is a very valuable technology to have access to. And so, really, what we've noticed since we've gotten approval of the product was we've gotten a lot of calls. We've become very popular in the cardiac electrical implantable device space because there's a lot of interest in that technology.
Absolutely. And given its pioneering role in preventing post-surgical device complications, what are your next steps, especially when it comes to integrating this technology into other products?
Yeah. So right now we're focused on launching EluPro. When you have one player like Medtronic that has 40% of the market, and they have a sort of a I don't want to say comparable product, but they have a product that's at least in the space. We have this superior product. It's kind of creates a pretty cool market dynamic because 60% of the market can, even though there's 3 different players, but Biotronic, Boston Scientific, and Abbott, those 3 can agree on one thing, and that is they absolutely don't want a Medtronic envelope going on the outside of their pacemaker, and so they view us as, hey, Elutia, they don't make a pacemaker. So we love their envelope, and we'd be happy to have that on the outside. So we have some very favorable market tailwinds, and that's really what we've been trying to get ready to go after, and that's what we're going to exploit going forward. And so in order to do that, we've got to manufacture the product. So you and I were talking, we have this beautiful manufacturing facility, state-of-the-art manufacturing facility in Atlanta, Georgia, that's already started making the product and getting ready to ship and launch the product in soft launch in this second half of this year, and full launch coming up starting in January. We also have been on a bit of a tear in going out and hiring new reps. and expand our sales force so we can have greater reach. And then obviously working with the different hospital systems in order to be able to get the product on formulary in their hospitals, so the physicians are able to actually order the product and use it in the cases. And all that's been going pretty darn well.
Fantastic. So last question due to time. You reported Q2 2024 financial results. So give us a little summary of these key updates.
Yeah. So we had good growth actually in our commercial business. That's always a good part of earnings. A lot of that was in preparation for this launch of EluPro, and making sure that we have accounts open and are ready to have this product come in and do what we want it to, which is really disrupt the markets. The other thing we did, we brought in some new talent, particularly in operations. And so we brought in a new vice president of operations to help make sure that we can manufacture this products and have all of the supply that we would need. And then the last thing we did was we significantly strengthened our balance sheet. And so at the end of the quarter, and then a little beyond, we did sort of a combination of raises. We brought in close to another $28 million onto our balance sheet, and we really got the company in a super strong position. And we did that because strategically, we know where we are, right? And we know that we're going to have a lot of great options, and that if we are the strongest Elutia that we can be from a financial standpoint, then we're going to have the most negotiating leverage that we can. And so we are ready. We have the talent that we need. We have the financial resources that we need to go out and really capture significant share in the pacemaker market. And then beyond that, we're gonna march on and do the same sort of thing in breast reconstruction, where women going through mastectomy are facing exactly the same kind of problems, but at worse numbers with worse outcomes. And so there's a lot for us to do there. So we're super excited about it. I do a bad job containing that excitement sometimes.
It's good that you're excited about this. Great work. Thank you so much for this update, Doctor, and we look forward to having you on again in the future.
Thank you so much, Anna. Appreciate it.
All right, everyone, stay with us. We'll be right back.